Hey everybody, so looking online, house prices in the UK over the past several decades or a couple of decades on these charts. And the reason is that uh, potentially maybe looking into buying an apartment. We're not sure. We looked at one the other day and I mentioned it in another video a couple of weeks ago. But we looked at an apartment the other day in Manchester and I quite liked it. I did. I like apartment, like high-rise buildings. So I thought, yeah, this is a possibility. It's a nice building. It's not dead center in the city, which I didn't want anyway. But it's kind of on the slightly quieter outskirts, which is nice. But still, like well within just like a few minutes walk into the center, which is great. So the thing is, I wanted to just see. Okay, well, I know house prices are on the rise, and they always have. Well, I don't know if they always have been, but they have been for quite a while. They get pricier and pricier every year, or at least from the around my area where I live now. But I was just curious about apartments or flats. Now, in England, I see flats as like you live in a house that is broken up into several like apartments. So maybe the bottom floor is one home, the top floor is another home, or it might be like above a shop, or it might be flats could be a high rise as well. You could call them flats, but when I say apartment, I in my mind I think of like a kind of city center high rise. That's kind of the difference in. I don't think that's an official difference or description, just the way I think of it. So, but yeah, I got used to living in apartments when I was overseas, and I quite like them. I'm not honestly like I've not been in my garden like the 5 years that I've lived here. I have, but I must have hung out in my garden like twice in the entire 5 years that I've lived here. I don't care about having a garden on, really. It doesn't matter at all. And I don't use a lot of space in this house either, so we'll probably be selling and then moving on to this apartment, but we'll see. But I mean, just looking at the house prices, and this is like house prices here. I think this includes everything probably, but since kind of 2002, we were up around above 100,000. So what's like 120,000, something like that, maybe. Like it's skyrocketed over the past 20 years to like 300,000. Um, I mean, that's 20 years. I don't know if you really call that a skyrocket, but you can see here this was an interesting one. Like the dip, like 2008, like down by 15% on average, like the UK house price change. It's been up ever since, but not recently. I mean, look at this. This is where we are right now. This was the world financial crisis, the housing crash, the whatever the heck it was. The Big Short movie is all about it. I just remember everything was going to shit at that time. Companies and financial institutes were closing down, and everything was getting affected, and a mortgage crisis, whatever. Uh, and then there was a dip over here, but it looks like, yeah, recently as well, there's been a bit of a drop. Now, if I do buy a place, I'm not so worried about like I'm not buying it for a quick flip like this one. If I did go ahead, if it does work out for us, and if the figures make sense, and if I can afford it, of course, obviously that's the biggest question. Or is it going to be a strain each month if I do that? But I'm not looking at this as like an immediate, oh, the price is down, I'll buy it now and then I'll flip it next year. No, that's not how I'm looking at it. There are like situations where you can do that, and my family has done this before, where they've done what's called a flip. Probably people who are watching this, they know what that is, but it's just basically where you find like a fairly rundown house or flat or an apartment, and you do it up, therefore improve it, therefore increasing the market value, and then you sell it on at that higher market value, and that's generally done in like a short time frame. Maybe that's a few months, maybe it's 6 months, and then you can take the cash out and move on to the next one. This is more what I was kind of interested in, like flats and maisonettes. So maisonette, I think, is like a city house. Yeah, I really should have checked that out first. But flats as well. I mean, looking at the green here, this is actually I don't know if you can see it. That's green, but they sort of track along as well. I mean, it's not like I mean, in fact, that was an actual bigger increase in price, just slightly there for flats and maisonettes in 2014. But here it was a larger dip. even though the price change didn't really go down, it was around zero. But it does kind of track with the market in general. They're not way off. You've not got like a massive drop here in 2008 for houses, but then a big spike um, for apartments or anything like that. I think the big thing is with apartments is so I was speaking with the estate agent. So I'll talk about it more in a separate video in more detail probably, but the things that we have to consider for like a close to city centre apartment are things like management fee. So that is the building management fee or service charge. So basically the price that the building owners charge you for them to maintain the building, I think, or security or concierge, whatever it may be. So there's that. There's also ground rent needs to be paid as well. Now, ground rent on the apartment was cheaper than this house just because it takes up less space, I think, even though we're floating above the ground, like, so many floors up. Council tax is still a thing as well, of course, just like our house here, which is an absolute pain in the butt, I think, council tax. I mean, I pay £166, I think, each month on council tax, which is just, oh, God, that's so bloody extortionate, I think. My parents, who live in a bungalow, which is smaller overall but takes up more floor space, actually is a higher tax band than my house. Even though there's more room in this house overall, it's just because this house is taller and a bungalow is a single floor house, if that term isn't used anywhere else, in different parts of the world. So yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, so council tax, service charge, ground rent, insurance. That's another one you have to check on with apartments as well. And I asked about this, and I just, speaking with the real estate agent, and I want to check for sure to make sure this is true. But if the wall falls down or the ceiling collapses in, is that covered by the service charge? The answer is yes. Whereas my house here, if the roof was to suddenly fall in, now I do have insurance, house insurance, but I mean that's kind of on me still, even without the home insurance. So if this place gets flooded, I've got home insurance as well. And oh crap! In fact, I need to renew it. Damn, I forgot about that. I need to buy new home insurance. I better put that up at the top of my list of to-dos. I'm in England, so this is another one I was looking at. House prices in England, yeah, line goes up. It's interesting how it's gone down here recently a little bit, though. But honestly, I'm not too worried about it. Houses in England, that we have a phrase like it's safe as houses. I assume that refers to investment, because houses are like a good solid investment vehicle in England. I don't know about the rest of the world. Like, I know it's pretty common, of course, for people to buy houses and flats as an investment, but obviously it varies from country to country. Like over in China, where I was years ago, it's extremely expensive to buy a flat because or an apartment because everyone's investing in them. However, a lot of them are empty. They're just buying because they think the next person is going to buy it, but the supply and demand is kind of out of whack. Whereas over here in England, there's an undersupply of houses, and it's actually quite difficult to rent a place, from what I understand. I haven't rented in England before. I was at university before I went overseas, so I've never had to go through the renting process. But I've heard it's pretty difficult. You have to, landlords can be really picky, and it's kind of difficult to find a place because we don't have enough houses. I can't remember the number. I'd heard a podcast a few years ago, and we were like under supply, and we're meant to be building like 1,000 new houses every so often, but we're getting 2,000 or something new people. So the numbers I completely forget what the numbers are, but it was something, the increase in people was nowhere near like the increase in houses or homes was nowhere near matching the increase of number of people that were like being born or becoming adults or looking to buy. So Southwest England. What was the other one I was looking at down here? Average house price though. But this is a detached house. Yeah, this is wow. Wow, this has already gone up. Yeah, 450,000 for a detached house. This is basically a house where £450,000. This is a house that isn't connected to any other house. I live in an end of terraced house, so I'm connected to 4 other houses. So I would say mine is a terraced house, I think. So this one here, so yeah, it makes sense that like this range of house would be cheaper. Terraced is because you can have the ones that are in the middle as well, so obviously this is an average. Flats and maisonettes, so again, a maisonettes I think is a city house maybe. I'll have to check on that, but flat is, like I say, the smaller ones. Average house, yeah, London. Where's England? Oh, England is the most expensive. It's got to be London. London's got to be the most expensive, that's for sure. The other thing is about apartments as well, is like most British families don't want to live in an apartment. It's usually professionals or say students or people who do like living in the city, which is not very common, to be honest. Most families, especially families who have kids, they want a house with a garden, but I don't give a crap about a garden. I don't. I've had the garden in the shed for like 5 years, like I said, and I don't bother with it. I don't like gardening. I don't like maintaining it. England is not good weather most of the year, so you've got like you might be able to sit out there for a few months in the year and it'll be okay, but the rest of the time it's just looks like shite. So anyway, I might do a separate video when I get more details on this apartment and what I might get. Who knows? I've got to speak to the mortgage advisor. I've got to see if the numbers make sense. Can I do it? Yes or no? Can I sell? If so, how much do I get? Am I going to be straining myself? Do I need to dig into savings? All of that stuff. Like these are all big considerations. How long will it take to sell this place if we do that? So yeah, it's a lot to think about, but I think it's the right move. I saw the place the other day, and I really like it. It was. I immediately got a good feeling with the building, so that's good. Anyway, I just wanted to ramble on about that. See you later.